Hey guys, this is Katie here and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about chore systems. Not so much which chore system might work for you because I've already done a video on what we currently use, but I do want to talk about what's the behind the scenes. What do you kind of need to do before creating a system like that? What do you need to do during that time and during that training time, and then afterwards, after you have the system in place, what are some things that you need to do? Just sort of a behind the scenes look at how we have done it in our family, and hopefully it'll give you a few ideas for your family. So let's get started. Well, basically, I do want to say that every family is unique. What you choose to do for chores, what age you start chores, how you handle it, what kind of system works for you, whether you do a chore chart or you do the chore packs or you do a rotation or everybody gets a different day of the week or whatever it is. There are so many different ways. If you are not familiar, you can check out Pinterest, so many different YouTubers that talk about the way they do chores. But for us, we have found that finding some way to have a physical reminder for our kids by using the chore pack system that we use is super helpful for our kids. So one size may not fit all, but there are a few essential foundational tips that can help you regardless of the system you choose. The first thing I would say is to talk to your husband and really figure out, why are you doing chores? Why do you want your kids to do chores? Is it because you want to provide a way for them to earn money? Is it because you want to teach them a good work ethic? Is it because you want them to learn those life skills? Whatever it is, figure out your why, because that's going to dictate how you go about doing the process. How strongly do you enforce these things? How often are they going to do them? Whatever it might be. But talk to them, get on the same page as far as that goes. And with that, pray about it. I know sometimes we forget to pray about the little things like chore systems, but I promise you that is something that's going to impact every single day of your life. The fights and arguments about who didn't do their chores, the teachable moments that are going to come from your kids doing or not doing their chores, and just the fact that it's taking care of the home God gave us and managing our possessions and the things, being a good steward of what He's given us. Those things are going to affect our daily lives. And so spending time in prayer on that is really important. The next thing is to figure out what chores you want your kids to tackle. What I have found is easiest for this for me is to list out a bunch of chores that we do around the house. And it could be dividing it by rooms. It could be dividing it by individual jobs. So maybe someone's job is going to be to do all the dusting in the house or all the sweeping in the house. For us personally, we prefer doing zones. And this is something we've moved to more recently. So the dining room and the living room are right next to each other. So that is one zone. We've got the school area, which is kind of a breakfast nook area, the school area, the hallway, and the downstairs bathroom. Those are all right next to each other. So that's another zone. We found that doing those zones has been really helpful for our kids because it's all in the same spot. Before, we were having them do something that was maybe, one chore up here, so they do the bathroom downstairs and the bathroom upstairs. Or they were doing the living room and then taking out the trash, which is in a whole nother room. That made it hard for them because I was kind of out of sight, out of mind. So I would find that they would do about half their chore, and when the other one wasn't right in there next to them, they could more easily forget it or maybe struggle with lying about it or not doing it as well as they should. It also gave me accountability. If I walk into the zone and I see something wrong, I know who I need to talk to. So that is just an idea of how to do it. But you can just list out the different jobs that you have in your home, period. Whether you're doing them, your husband's doing them, your kids are doing them, whoever. List out those jobs and then look at their ages and figure out what is an age-appropriate job. This might take a little bit of experimenting, and that is totally fine. But think through what are age-appropriate jobs. And don't be afraid to break a job into a much smaller chunk. For a long time, and our fourth child was really young. She needed a job, but she does have some special needs. It made it a lot harder for her to do a lot. So I wanted her to become very proficient in doing a small job that she could do well, instead of giving her a big job that was very overwhelming and she could do it kind of subpar. So we gave her the job of wiping off the high chair. every single day. And after each meal, she would wipe off the high chair. And it was very helpful, and it was a very good skill. It took a lot of work to get in there, and babies can make a huge mess, but it was a great way for her to take a very small chunk of a job. So just think about that too. But start to pair the jobs with the children. Now, here is a really important step. You really want to take time to figure out what could go wrong in this situation. I talked about this in our laundry system video, which you guys can check out up here in the links above. But this is something that's really important that has really helped us, is to go through what are all the ways this could go wrong. What are the questions our kids might ask us? What are the discipline issues that might come up? And what are the consequences going to be for those particular situations? I want to make sure that we are crystal clear with our expectations and crystal clear with our consequences. That hasn't always been easy for me by any means. I still to this day struggle with that. I think I will always struggle with that to some extent, but it has been very hard for us in the past. I don't want my kids to ever be at that position of, well, if mom's in a bad mood, then if I don't do my chores, it's, the hammer's coming down and it's going to be, you lose TV for the whole week or whatever. And other days when she's tired and she doesn't really care, she's just going to be like, well, we'll just get to it tomorrow. I wanted to be consistent. I wanted to have consistent consequences. And I think that that's a really important part. But I think if we have to do that off the cusp, we tend to give consequences that are not appropriate for the situation, or are really honestly just not things that make sense, that are not logistical. I want natural consequences as much as physically possible. So one way that we decided to do this, and you can obviously do it however you would like, but one way we've decided to do this is if it is an offense that only affects them, then that natural consequence is also going to affect them. If it is something that is in a family area, so for instance, in a bedroom, if they don't clean their bedroom, then they can't have free time until their bedroom's clean. Now, if they continue to goof off and not clean their bedroom for days and days and days, then they're going to do school and they're going to go back to cleaning their bedroom, and they're going to lose out on their TV time and getting to play outside and getting to have all those fun extra things. And that's going to really stink. But that's something they did, and that's something that's going to affect them. Now, if they don't do a chore in our home that is a family chore, then that affects more than just them, and there are going to be consequences to that. Maybe an earlier bedtime, maybe it's having to wake up earlier so they can complete that chore so it doesn't mess up kind of our day and how that works, or it might be getting an additional chore on top of that. You can have a little variation in there, but have an idea of what you're going to do and what kinds of offenses are going to warrant those kinds of consequences. Obviously, as always, there's tons of grace in parenting. There can be exceptions, but we have to have consistent rules so that they know that when we change things or when we seek to give grace, they need to recognize it as grace and giving that a break and understanding that that circumstance was different, or understanding that, we all mess up. We all have tough days, and it's okay. And not so much as mom and dad being really inconsistent and not keeping their levels, at a steady, consistent pace. And that is really something I struggle with, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. I would love to know if you guys struggle with that as well, or am I all alone in struggling with this? But it has been very, very hard for us. And so this has really helped just have consistent expectations. The next step is, and that's kind of what you do before. So that's all what you do before you start a chore system. You want to kind of have those consequences, what the chores are. And then you also kind of want to list out, what do those chores entail? Whether you decide to give this list to your children, whether you decide to have it just for yourself, I think it's really important to understand what's your expectation and in what level do you expect your child to complete this task. Then, once you have laid out that system, I really recommend taking the time to train your kids. And I personally like to do this during Christmas break or the time during like a spring break. Just take the week off of school if you homeschool, and take the week off of school just to do chore training, or doing it during the summer, or any of those breaks like that where you can focus just on chore training. Now, that's not always possible, and that is fine. Give yourself some slack. Just know that if you're not solely doing chore training, it might take a couple more weeks. And that's totally fine. Just understand that. But you need to go side by side and walk alongside your kids and work with them. Now, I have 6 kids, and they don't all have chores, but the 4 older ones definitely do. And for me, having to go side by side with them doesn't work perfectly because they're all doing chores at one time. They're all in different zones of our house, and there's only one of me. So the way I did it is I started with the youngest, and I worked with her first, and I walked side by side with her and helped her with all the chores. I told the other kids what zone they have, and because they've had chores in the past, they know to some extent what I expect of them. And I might, say, oh, whoops, do we miss this spot? Let's see if we can sweep that up or something. But other than that, I didn't really go much more in depth than that. But then once one child was set, I would go to the next child and we would kind of work it that way. You could also just ease into it and work with one child at a time and not have the other one start their chores till then. I just didn't want that feeling of they started before I did, I have work and they don't, that kind of thing. So choose to do it how you want, but make sure you take the time to train your kids. Don't just give them a room and expect them to do it to your standards. Another thing that's been helpful for us is we actually took our standards and wrote them on a checklist. I wrote these zones down on a checklist. So in their chore packs, if you guys have seen our video, they have these chore packs that they carry around on their neck while they're doing it. So it gives them a visual cue of what to do next. But for them, I've got what they need to do. So zone 2 is the downstairs bathroom. She's got 2 for zone 2. It's their school area and hall, and then the downstairs bathroom. The other list is simply actually just hygiene stuff, brush your teeth, get dressed, that kind of thing. Laminated it, I put it in her pouch, and she's a little dry erase marker that she can go through and check it off. But she knows that in the school area and hall, I expect the floors to be picked up. I expect her to clean on top of the bar stools that are at our bar. She needs to sweep the floor, and she needs to pick up the counter that are the non-kitchen items. So I take care of cleaning the kitchen, but she needs to pick up any, school books that got put there or toys or whatever random things end up on my kitchen counter. So she takes care of those things, but this gives her very clear expectations. If something needs to be adjusted or added, it's very possible that it will be, then just update the list, but don't fluctuate, because this is something I was struggling with a lot, is sometimes I would say, oh, today you have to make sure that you clean under the coffee table as well as on top of it, because we have baskets under there and they get shoved with all sorts of random junk. And so some days I would say, yeah, you need to clean under that and make sure those are sorted. And then other days I would totally just blow past it. And it was not fair to my kids, even though I didn't get upset necessarily that they hadn't done it. I didn't feel fair for me to just spring that on them at random points without at least acknowledging that it was random. And I kind of just was inconsistent with that, and I really struggle with that. We do deep cleaning on Saturdays. So everybody does their chores in the morning, and then we do deep cleaning on Saturdays. So they do their zones still. They stick with the same zones, and they do the same checklist of things that they do every single day, but then they have a few additional tasks. So it might be to move the furniture out and sweep underneath it, or to mop or vacuum or something like that. So those checklists are a little bit longer. So we actually have those throughout the house in different areas of the rooms. So it might be, taped to a cabinet door under the bathroom sink or something like that. But they can go through on those checklists and check it off. But it gives them consistency. They know if they've done those things, they're good. And I know that if they've done those things, they're good. Little cards for our little ones, which you can see in the video that I mentioned before. But we do use picture cards for them since they can't read. And that has helped wonderfully too. As you start training them then, after you know that they know what to do in their certain task, start to transition to them doing it and then you checking up and following. I really, really love the idea from Not Consumed Ministries. You guys have to check out their website. I will link that down below for you guys. But she has a great little checklist that she goes through with her kids. And they will randomly do these checks. And so you don't know when it's going to be, but mom, and then you can choose whether you want your other kids to participate too, will check your chore. And they will go through and they have come in a comic card rating system. And if you've gone above and beyond, there might be some kind of reward involved. And if there's something that needs to be worked on, then that might be adjusted too. But I think it's so cool that when you get to go through there and you never know when mom's going to do a surprise inspection. And instead of something that's dreaded, like, oh, she's checking my work again, it can be something exciting and something where there might be a reward in it for you. Say, follow up with your kids on their chores, because you will find that over time, they might be doing things really well at the beginning and then they kind of peter off and you need a little instruction there. I have done a video on what to do when your kids are doing their chores, ways that you can kind of help with that, and you guys can check that out up above. But that is kind of what we do. As far as afterwards, like I said, it's a lot of follow up, be consistent, and if there needs to be tweaks and adjustments, make those, but communicate those very clearly with your kids. Hey guys, I needed to update your checklist, or I needed to update, the expectations because I realized we missed something when we were planning, because that's gonna happen. But don't just spring it on them or go, well, why didn't you do X, Y, Z? I told you that. If you verbally tell them, make sure that anywhere where you have visual expectations, that matches that, okay? I originally had on my list that my daughter needed to vacuum the stairs and vacuum the hallway, because that was one of her zones, is doing that in the bathroom upstairs. And I realized that actually wasn't a good expectation to have for a daily task, because she does have juvenile arthritis and she struggles with carrying our vacuum cleaner. It's pretty heavy. We're trying to find one that's a little bit lighter, but you can drop your comments and suggestions down below. I'm open to it, but she can't lift that. And so she was having to get somebody else to lift it so then she could do the vacuuming. Well, that wasn't working, and it was causing too much confusion and frustration. So we moved that to a once a week chore. I can help her with it then and come alongside her with that, but it doesn't have to be a daily thing. So don't be afraid to shift and adjust, and just know, give yourself a lot of grace. Give yourself a lot of understanding that why at the beginning was so important, because when you get frustrated and you realize, man, this is a lot of work to train my kids on how to do my chores, but this is why we do it. Make sure that you have a good why for you. Don't take my why and use my why without having real meaning to it, because otherwise it's not going to get you through those tough days. I just want to encourage you guys to keep up the good work, keep pressing on, and please let me know what kind of questions you have around chores. I would love to help with anything that I can. And I hope that you guys will check out our video on Wednesday, where I'm going to be sharing some great, simple, short strategies for how you can make your homeschool lunchtime run so much smoother in your home, and a few ideas that we like to do for lunches that are easy and affordable and fun. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.